Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Nothing to See Here podcast. Hi, it's Frankie.
It's Hannah.
I got two snow cones today.
She did. She did get two snow cones today.
Hannah, would you like to take a guess at where we were?
Well, it's not Ligonier days. I know that. I
They don't
almost
do
want.
snow cones there, which they
I
really
didn't
should.
think they did.
They should, but no, not Ligonier days.
Were you
Try
at?
again.
No, you said snow cones, not slushy. So you weren't at the theater.
Nope, snow cones.
I don't know.
Frankie?
It's your thing. You were excited about it. You were pumped.
I was pumped. You weren't as pumped as I was pumped.
I was never going to be as pumped as you, so I don't know why you expected that.
We went to Disney on Ice.
Oh, that's right. And how was your show?
Apparently, to Frankie, there was only two highlights. I think
Only
there
two
was...
highlights.
I also think there were two highlights, but our highlights differ. The first highlight is the donkeys.
Yeah, they had dancing donkeys. We both agree on that highlight.
Yeah. Best highlight is really good. My second highlight is the guy who played Kristoff. Really good. Did some backflips on the ice, which is not an easy thing to do as a former figure skater. I can appreciate it. And he was the only one that I was like, damn, all right. And he had a really good music track too. It got me hyped. Although Frankie proceeded to tell me that it wasn't the fun little Frozen.
They do the Frozen thing, and they're like, "Oh, it's a land of winter, and they harvest ice, and here comes an ice harvester right now." And then Kristoff skates out, and they don't play the ice harvesting song from the opening of Frozen.
Is
Yeah,
it
they don't.
something entirely new?
Yeah.
It was just like some random instrumental piece.
Well, that's what he gets for not having an actual song in the show.
They should have played the ice harvesting song from the beginning of the movie.
Or the Hey Nana song, whatever.
My second highlight was very early on. It was Ariel, and she did a rope aerial trick where she tied herself by her wrist and was like doing the rope tricks up top, and then the end was she tied herself by her wrist and the guy below just fucking lassoed her around.
Yeah, that's hard. Yeah, bet you
With
she
skates
gets
on.
really dizzy. Skate. Okay, I said this before
To
as
be
we were
fair,
walking.
it wouldn't really make a difference skates or not.
Yeah,
For her. The guy on the ice, though, I mean, that's a little less balance than if you're just standing there.
yeah, that's true. For her, ice skates are not that heavy. Why do people think that ice skates are so heavy? I was walking into the car and they're like, wow, this one woman was talking about it and she's like, wow, the thing with Ariel was so cool. Like those skates must be heavy. I can't imagine. Like that had to be so much more difficult. Incorrect. The skates
I
are not
was
that heavier.
I was not thinking skates are heavy. I was thinking, hey, I have a really sharp object on my feet and I'm gonna cut myself with it.
Not even that. No, I think the hardest part of that, aside from not throwing up, from the spinning, is probably the fact that you have to hold your body weight via your wrist. Anybody else
Um,
here can do that?
no, I can't hold my body weight with my legs, so
Yeah.
I will say
Did you like it?
two other observations here. One, the kids, it was all kids. All right.
We went to the 11 a.m. show. What did you expect?
I know. Well, I would expect that at any of the shows, to be fair. The kids popped the most for Olaf out of any character. Olaf came out, kids went nuts.
Yeah, he goes, Jesus Christ.
And then pleasantly surprised that not every kid in the audience just started singing Let It Go when they did that song.
They did at the one I went to in Johnstown. I'll have you know. How did you feel? Your first Disney on Ice experience since being a child?
It was all right.
I hate you.
What do you mean you hate me? I was never going to love it.
You should have. You got a fun cup
I got a fun cup. Yeah.
with a straw. I also
With a
I
straw,
got
but
two.
I'm not keeping the fun cup.
That's not my fault problem. I got two fun cups.
I'm not
You know,
throwing away the fun cup. I'm not keeping it.
I know.
I wanted to put that out to the audience. I'm not gonna just throw something away.
He's
I'm not
regifting it.
wasteful. It's not
We will be
regifting.
auctioning it off on Instagram Live.
It's not re-gifting. It wasn't gifted to me. I paid for it.
He's
Frankie's
gifting
gonna
something
sign
to
it.
something.
Frankie's gonna sign it, and we're gonna auction it off on Instagram.
Yeah,
No.
that's what's happening.
Mhm.
That's not what's happening. That cup has already been promised to someone.
Well, it has, but they don't know that.
That's fine. But
It's
anyway,
an unaware promise.
regardless, he's got a cup. We went to a show. I thought it was really good. However, the one I went to in Johnstown, which smaller stage in fucking Johnstown, because the War Memorial's small as shit. It's better. It's better. It's better. And there were no set. Can we talk about the set real quick?
They had a lot of stairs. Like no,
They had
that
so
was
many
it.
stairs.
They just had a lot of stairs on the ice, Hannah.
Why?
A lot of people walking up and down stairs.
So many stairs. They had a boat one time.
They had one boat for Moana. They cut a lot of good songs too. They didn't play Be Our Guest during Beauty and the Beast. They didn't do all of We Don't Talk About Bruno in Encanto. They didn't even do the Family Madrigal in the Encanto segment. So like what a fucking waste of my time.
They cut the best songs.
They kind of did, yeah.
You know what song they didn't play? That shitty Butterfly song that Disney decided to nominate or to put up for nomination for best song at the Oscars and then fucking lost because they should have nominated We Don't Talk About Bruno, but they're idiots.
We don't talk about Disney stupidity on the pod.
We do. We have a whole series about it.
We do. No, I like the Butterfly song, but they didn't do that song either. They did do the Encanto song at the end, which was good. Although it was really weird seeing all of the Disney princesses dance to an Encanto song.
Yeah, that was the finale. That was the big finale song.
That was a big finish song. Yeah, a lot of stairs. The one I went to, they had a castle, and the castle's face would like change for like Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast, and Frozen. So I was expecting a lot, and I was a little disappointed. Step up your game, Disney on Ice, Find Your Hero. Step it up.
All right. Well, with that impromptu review of On Ice, Find Your Hero. Also, I want to say I bought a plushie as well. Also not for me. It's a later gift down the line for someone.
The only thing he bought was a snow cone for himself, and
crab fries.
He's not even keeping the cup, and some crab fries.
They were good. Have you ever had the Chicky and Pete's crab fries, Hannah?
No, I don't eat seafood.
They're not seafood. They're just fries seasoned with Old Bay.
Old Bay.
Oh, it's just okay. No, I have not.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
I really thought you went and got crab meat on your fries for a hot second.
That'd be good though. I would eat that.
I would not have sat next to him.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
I would imagine the crab would not have been high quality.
And what I will say, this dumbass missed one of the best like jumps ever. They did a throw jump while they were duetting Beauty and the Beast.
I was dipping my fry into cheese. What do you mean?
He's dipping his fucking fry into cheese. The music was amping up so that you knew something was happening.
Hannah, it was one of those situations where you get like a cup of cheese sauce, right? To dip your food. And when you're starting out, you can just dip your food. It's full of cheese sauce. I was near the end, so I had to look to find the cheese.
He could hear the music amping up.
I like cheese.
I think all this has proven is that you are a white person.
That's fair. I'm not saying I've never said I wasn't white.
I will say
over anything else.
Yeah. I like cheese.
I will say on the way to Disney on Ice, my mother had the greatest idea ever, which was to play the Disney Mania song. Well, she said play Disney songs. So I, of course, played the Disney Mania songs.
Yeah, I had to listen to that.
Frankie was very upset.
All right. Let's get started on the actual episode.
Oh, we're not talking about Disney on Ice? That isn't our
No, that's not my episode. That's not my episode.
It was your episode last week.
Yeah.
Frankie's turn.
And we're talking about my favorite thing. We're starting my long-term project. Amanda's got her Disney movies. Hannah, have you revealed your long-term project on the show officially?
I don't think my long-term project is going to be
On the
main
main show.
episodes. Yeah.
Okay.
I
Hannah will
think
be doing
mine is gonna kind of be more on YouTube.
Okay, Hannah will be doing some YouTube stuff. By the way, we're on YouTube now.
We are.
Oh, I thought Hannah's thing was going to be the Barbie movies.
I mean, that one could be for the pod.
Mm-hmm.
We
That
are on
could be-
YouTube now.
Go subscribe to our YouTube channel. Is it just nothing to see here, or is it
It's just nothing to see here.
Okay. Couldn't remember if we had to include podcast or not.
But yeah, follow us on or subscribe to us on YouTube. It'll upload the same here, the same time as we upload on Spotify, and occasionally we might do some videos now. So be on the lookout for that.
If you are excited to have or witness both Hannah and Frankie smell the entirety of my candle and Scentsy collection, please
Yeah, you want to watch
know.
a 24-hour video.
Where we basically learn Amanda is a candle hoarder.
Yeah. Anyway, my long-term project is involving wrestling because I am a wrestling fan.
I know. I want to do a thingy with you.
We're going to be talking about, as I revealed last week, WCW World Championship Wrestling. WCW was a company that existed from 1988 until 2001 when it was bought by the WWE.
So it was around for a while.
It was. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to look at the rise and fall of WCW. Now, WCW was around before where we're watching, and that's where this episode comes in. We're going to start with watching what their flagship show became, WCW Monday Nitro.
All of the words that you just said,
Yeah?
no, did not compute in head.
I know all those words separately. I do not
Yeah.
understand them together.
Yeah, thank you, Hannah.
So you have WWE has Monday Night Raw.
Yeah.
Yes, I have seen those adverts.
WCW had its own Monday night show, Monday Nitro.
That's a dumb name.
Nitro spelled Nitro, like, the bombs.
Yeah, that's a dumb name.
And so we're going to be watching those episodes, but before that, we got to have a primer episode of what's WCW's situation going into Monday Nitro. What have they been doing up to that point? Because we're not going to watch all the fucking bullshit before that. That's way too much.
Putting a bunch of men in tights.
That's true.
Leotards.
A lot of men in tights.
And leotards.
So to really look at the history of WCW, you have to look at the history briefly of wrestling, pro wrestling in America, and more importantly, the National Wrestling Alliance, the NWA. So
there's so many abbreviations in this episode. I can feel it already.
There are. So
what was the NWBA?
NWA.
The NWA.
Like the rap group, but it's National Wrestling Alliance.
No white people alliance.
So wrestling in America started to become popular after the Civil War. At first, professional wrestlers were genuine fighters, but they couldn't really draw people in because wrestling is not entertaining. Real wrestling isn't.
My cousins, my boy cousins did wrestling, and I went to one of their wrestle matches. It's just a lot of grabbing each other.
It is. It's not very fun to watch.
No, in fact, I was a little uncomfortable by it.
So what did they do? They began to fake their matches so they could give the audience a satisfying show. Fixing the matches was also convenient for scheduling. A real match could last hours depending on how good the wrestlers were, whereas a fake or worked match could be made short. It allowed the audience to not have to sit there to watch an hours-long match. Wrestlers would be able to keep their appointments and share venues with other entertainment avenues, and wrestlers who were getting older and lacked the stamina for an hours-long fight could continue to wrestle, and there was less risk of injury.
So what I'm hearing is basically the theater kids took over.
The theater kids took over, yeah.
Oh, okay. I understand that.
So by the end of the 19th century, nearly every professional wrestling match was worked.
Nearly.
There were some around the country in spotty areas that were still real matches, but nearly everything was worked. What added on to this is the fact that the carnival hooked its or professional wrestling hooked its wagon to the carnival.
The
Excuse
theater
me.
kids and the carnies.
Yeah.
The carnival, like Carnival Cruise.
No, as in, the county fairs.
Oh God damn it!
Wrestlers in the late 19th century worked in carnival shows. For a fee, a visitor could challenge wrestlers to a quick match. If the challenger defeated the champion in about usually a 15-minute match, they could win a prize. To encourage challenges, the carnival operators would rig matches where a plant in the audience would challenge the champion and win, giving the audience the impression the champion was easy to beat. This practice taught wrestlers that staging matches and fostered a mentality that spectators were marks to be duped.
Yeah, and you are full on duped.
I am a full-on mark, yeah. So by the turn of the 20th century, almost all professional wrestling matches were worked still, and journalists began to expose the practice.
Ooh, scandalous.
In the National Police Gazette in July 22nd in 1905, there's this quote: American wrestlers are notorious for the amount of faking they do. It is because of this fact that suspicion attaches to so many bouts that the game is not popular here. 9 out of 10 bouts, it has been said, are prearranged, and it would be no surprise if the ratio of fixed matches to honest ones was really so high.
So, did no one use their critical thinking skills back then and go, hey, this is paid entertainment?
Well,
No, because it was 1905 and people were too busy doing like opium and
yeah.
cocaine.
And you'd pay to see basketball and baseball and football.
In 1905?
Baseball.
Yeah,
At least baseball.
At least baseball, yeah.
I don't sport, so this is all news to me.
Hannah, I don't sport either. And even I know that baseball was around in the early 1900s.
It was around
Baseball
in
was
the
What do you
around.
know
1800s.
about me?
Baseball was around when Teddy Roosevelt was around. Fun fact.
Basketball was invented in 1891.
See, you're saying sports things and my brain shuts off. Is the issue.
Baseball was invented in 1939.
1939.
1839. 1839.
I was going to say that's incorrect.
And
sir.
American football was 1869.
Nice.
So, how did wrestling work in a business perspective?
Well,
They had
I know the answer to your question.
go on.
I think stupid people.
No. What they had were basically the mafia or cartels.
Let's go Pablo Escobar.
So they called them promotion cartels. The first major promotion cartel emerged on the East Coast. Notable members of the cartel included Jack Curley, Lou Darrow, Paul Bowser, and Tom and Tony Pax.
Jack Curley, I've heard that name.
You've heard the name Jack Curley?
I think so. Was he a cartel or was he mafia? Because I think I might be associating mafia.
Well, he was a sports promoter.
I don't know then. I don't know.
So
I'm pretty sure my aunt's in the mafia.
all right.
Or at least knows somebody in the mafia. I'm quite scared of her, you know?
So the way these promotion cartels work is the promoters would collude to solve problems that hurt their profits. They would force wrestlers to perform for less money.
That's mean.
They would force independent promoters out of business, and then that would make fewer places for the wrestlers to work and force them to sign a contract with the cartel to be able to work. The contracts would forbid them from performing at independent venues, and a wrestler who refused to play by the rules was barred from performing at the venues the cartel ran.
Here's a fun and wacky idea. Pay your workers what they're worth for the job they're doing. Give them an actual wage, not lowball them.
Why would they do that?
I don't know, just a fun and wacky idea.
The second
I'd
goal,
like to point out this was also around like the Newsies strike era. So
hey, you want to know a fun fact about wrestlers?
what?
There's never been a wrestling union, and in fact, today wrestlers on like the biggest stages, WWE, AEW, are labeled as independent contractors and not employees.
I
I'm
don't know what
gonna,
to do with that information.
yeah, I don't.
It means that the companies don't have to provide them, health insurance. They get
To all
tax
the wrestlers out there, please
fixes.
unionize.
Yeah, you guys should unionize.
There was an attempt to unionize in the early 80s, early late 80s, and you want to know who fucking stopped it?
John
Vince,
Cena.
Vince McMahon,
Noted racist and all-around bad person, Hulk
Hulk
Hogan.
Hogan.
Oh God. It makes sense though.
Yeah, because he's the top guy.
Not
Well, he
anymore.
was.
He was the top guy then. Why would he want to help people out? The other thing this cartel was trying to do was establish an authority over who was the real world champion. Before
Me.
this, there were multiple wrestlers in America all calling themselves world champion.
Also me.
Yeah. The issue over who got to be champion and who controlled said champion was a major point of contention among the members of the cartels, as the champion would draw bigger crowds wherever he performed, and this would occasionally lead to divides amongst the promoters. So,
Yeah, just like every place in New York says it has the world's best coffee.
yeah. So in 1925, the cartel began to divide the country up into territories, which were the exclusive domains of specific promoters. No other promoter in the cartel could run shows in that area. And if another promotion did develop in that area, the members of the cartel would come together to crush it.
Kill them.
So this first version of the cartel would break up in 1929 when one of its members, Paul Bowser, bribed the wrestler Ed Strangler Lewis to lose his championship match against Gus Sonnenberg in January of 1929.
I'm sorry,
After
could you say that name again?
Gus Sonnenberg,
No, no, the one before that.
Ed Strangler Lewis.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. Is there a problem with that name?
Did was he a serial unaliver?
No, he wasn't actually. He was just he just liked to strangle people in the ring.
Okay.
Yeah.
Continue.
So
I mean, we have a guy named the Undertaker.
Paul
Right now,
Bowser
so.
would then leave the cartel and create his own cartel called the American Wrestling Association in September of 1930 and declare Sonnenberg to be the first AWA champion. So we're once again in the Wild West of wrestling. No one knows what's going on. So in 1948, Paul Pinky George, a wrestling promoter from the U.S. Midwest, creates the National Wrestling Alliance with the backing of 5 other promoters: Al Haft, Tony Stetcher, Harry Light, Orville Brown, and Sam Muchnick.
Al Half. His name is Al Half.
Al Haft.
Al Half to what?
Jesus Christ. The idea behind the NWA was similar to the other cartels. Consolidate the championships of the regional companies into one true world champion, whose holder would be recognized worldwide. The newly formed board of directors decided that Brown would become the first ever NWA World Heavyweight Champion.
No White People Association champion.
So in 1950, Sam Muchnick, one of the original promoters of the NWA and Lou Thesz's booker, was named the governing body's president, to a position to which he was unanimously reelected and held until 1960. Following the advent of television, professional wrestling matches began to be aired nationally, reaching a larger audience than ever before. Rising demand and national expansion made wrestling a much more lucrative form of entertainment. This era would go on to be known as the golden age of professional wrestling. From 1948 to 1955, each of the 3 major television networks broadcast wrestling, with the largest supporter being the Dumont Television Network. However, in 1956, allegations were made that the NWA was an illegal monopoly blocking competition in professional wrestling.
Ah, the NWA, No Wham Association. They don't like wham.
This led to the Department of Justice investigating the NWA and filing the NWA consent decree of 1956.
So they have to consent to not listen to Wham.
Yeah. So what this did basically, it forced that they could not recognize any booker or promoter as the exclusive booker. They could not prevent anyone from doing business in the territory. They couldn't restrict the promotion of booking or wrestling matches. They couldn't require any booker to discriminate in favor of promoter members. They couldn't require any promoter to promote wrestling exhibitions only through the NWA. They couldn't require any person to refuse to promote or book any wrestler who wasn't associated with the NWA. And they couldn't prevent any wrestler, booker, or promoter from participating in studio exhibitions. The
Exhibition.
exhibition matches are what they were called.
Okay, well, you gotta clarify. We already have some half naked people here.
The association and consenting members were each prohibited from refusing to book for any promoter, any wrestler who was available and being booked by the association. They are prohibited from fixing any term or condition to working only with the NWA. They agreed to this. This caused several promoters to leave the NWA. In 1957, Montreal promoter Eddie Quinn walked out of the August NWA meeting in St. Louis after arguing with Sam Muchnick. When Quinn walked out, a wrestler of his named Edouard Carpentier was involved in an angle where he and Lou Thesz were both being presented as NWA world champion. And so when he left, he would declare that his guy was the world champion, while Lou Thesz was declared by the NWA as their world champion. So once again, we had multiple world champions. As the 1950s are ending, professional wrestling is losing TV ratings, and TV stations dropped most wrestling shows from their lineups. The remaining televised promoters had only small local syndicated shows which aired as late night filler. Promoters started using localized television by purchasing airtime from rival territories, and had the consequence of putting some of them out of business. So on January 24th, 1963, at the Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto, Lou Thesz defeated Buddy Rogers in a one-fall match to be declared the NWA World Heavyweight Champion for the third and final time. However, after this event, Vincent J. McMahon, the father of Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
So the Vince McMahon that we know?
The Vince we know is Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
Yeah, that fuckhead.
Yeah, that fuckhead. This is Vincent J. McMahon, his father.
Is he also a fuckhead?
I don't know much about Vincent J. McMahon.
Maybe do some more research.
But him and his business partner, Toots Montt.
What?
He had a business partner. Toots. Toots. He went by Toots Montt. Toots.
What was his real name?
Joseph Raymond Montt.
Okay.
How did he get Toots?
It doesn't say. He
talked a lot.
I was just gonna say he's the world farting champion.
It doesn't say why he's called Toots. No one knows why he was called Toots. He was just called Toots.
He knows why he's called Toots.
Everybody who's around him knows.
They own the Capital Wrestling Corporation, and they refuse to recognize Lou Thesz as the world champion because he didn't draw a lot of fans in their Northeast territory. So they then left the NWA and formed the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, with Buddy Rogers as the first world champion.
The WWF.
The WWWF.
Too many W's.
Even though they promoted their own world champion, McMahon continued to have representatives on the NWA board of directors and regularly exchanged talent with the NWA during this time. Wrestling's popularity continued to go down in the 1970s. The WWWF changed their name to the WWF in 1979.
Thank God.
Becoming the World Wrestling Federation.
They had to renew their copyright or trademark or whatever, and the intern forgot a W.
Do you want to know a fun fact about why they're called WWE now?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
What do you think of when you hear WWF now?
Probably something bad.
Okay. I think of the World Wildlife Fund.
Oh, I was thinking of like something dirty that ended in
It's
fuck.
essentially what happened is WWF was able to get the right to WWF websites and trademarks in America, but the World Wildlife Fund beat them to it everywhere else.
Good for
Ah,
them.
And so they decided it was better to change the name than get into a prolonged legal battle.
I
So,
respect it.
yeah,
WWE sounds better.
it does. I think so. So, at some point during the 70s, Sam Muchnick declared Atlanta, Georgia was the leading wrestling city in
Why?
America.
Was he from
Because
Atlanta?
he's not from Atlanta, he's from the Midwest.
He likes those peaches
Well, he
down in
can't.
Georgia.
He can't say anything about the. Yeah, never
And
mind.
I bet you he gets his weed
I
from
won't be
California.
mean to
All
the
right, calm
Midwest
down.
right now.
Calm down, Bieber. Um, this was shown because he said this because while the American Wrestling Association and the WWF were failing in the 70s, the NWA became the top promotion once again because of their flagship program, Georgia Championship Wrestling, which would become the first nationally broadcast wrestling program on cable television through the superstation TBS.
TBS
TBS, you know, the Turner Broadcasting Station?
from like Charmed, where Charmed was aired. Was that TBS?
That was the CW.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Not the new one, the original one,
Yes,
the good one.
the original was the WB and then the CW.
Ah,
TBS though was the first superstation owned by Ted Turner, the guy who owns TBS, TNT, CNN,
All those big boys.
the Atlanta Braves, the baseball team. He's a huge fucking billionaire. They
me
the,
too.
they brought in Gordon Soley, who they dubbed the Walter Cronkite of professional wrestling,
I
to be
thought
the
you were gonna
lead
say they
commentator.
brought. I thought you were gonna say they brought in the Gordon Ramsay, and
Yeah.
I was gonna be like, "Fuck yeah, they did, Gordon."
So
Could you
Georgia
imagine?
champion if Gordon Ramsay was a wrestling commentator.
Yes,
Oh
that
my
would be
God.
amazing.
I would watch wrestling every single fucking day.
In 1972, Georgia Championship Wrestling's first weekly television series premiered on the then WTCG when station owner Ted Turner purchased the rights to air the program. From that date, Georgia Championships Wrestling program aired for 2 hours from 6 to 8 p.m. every Saturday night. In 1976, Georgia Championship Wrestling became the first NWA territory to have a national cable television contract and began to be carried nationwide. But not for long, because everyone's least favorite Vince McMahon, Vincent Kennedy McMahon,
Oh,
would create his own company, Titan Sports, and purchase his father's Capital Wrestling Corporation to become the owner of the World Wrestling Federation. To
yay.
compete with the World Wrestling Federation and become more of a national program, Georgia Championship Wrestling changed its name to World Championship Wrestling because they were beginning to air in Ohio and Michigan and other states, not just Georgia.
But not the world.
No, but they
Can we talk about
We barely have America.
neither was the World Wrestling Federation.
It doesn't matter. Stop calling themselves the world.
But it
Why
worked.
is the United States? Why do we think that the world revolves around us?
Because we're the United States.
But it did work by changing their name. Georgia Championship Wrestling, becoming WCW, was able to get national television deals and once again become the top promotion over the WWF.
I hate everything in this right now.
The WWF then overtook them by leaving the NWA and creating the show WWF All American Wrestling. The NWA then, to counter this, created the show Starrcade, putting it back on top. But then Vince McMahon regained the lead by signing Hulk Hogan and creating the show Tuesday Night Titans.
This is just two dudes fighting.
Yeah,
it is.
This is a whose dick is bigger contest.
It is,
Yeah.
and Vince is about to
Have a small dick?
well, he's about to take over Georgia
about to take
Championship Wrestling.
First.
Oh.
What
So-
happened is Georgia Championship Wrestling had three major stakeholders. Jack Briscoe, Gerald Briscoe, and Ole Anderson. The program was what they call wrestling style of wrestling.
Jesus Christ.
It
Is
Say that
emphasized
again.
Is this the grappling shit?
wrestling. Yeah, it was a more athletic product, focused more on the sports part of it and less emphasis on the cartoonish gimmicks.
Incorrect.
Honestly, boring.
Yeah.
So in 1983, Vince McMahon, who did promote the cartoonish gimmicks, was beginning to expand nationwide and take control of other major cable television contracts at the time. What he did in 1984 to continue his expansion and deciding that he needed a second national cable outlet for his TV show, he was able to acquire he looked to acquire the TBS station slot from GCW. So he went to Ted Turner to buy the Saturday night time slot, but Ted Turner rejected him.
Hey.
So what was he supposed to do instead? He bought the stakes of Georgia Championship Wrestling from the Briscoes. He now controlled the company that had the contract for the time slot.
Boo.
So on July 14th, the show would open with the co-host Freddie Miller instead of Gordon Soley, who no one knows why he was absent. He either resigned in protest or was fired following the purchase.
I imagine McMahon fired him.
I do too. But Freddie Miller was there to introduce McMahon and welcome the WWF to TBS. And McMahon promised that the GCW fans who were tuned in would enjoy his program just as much. That was not true.
Were there riots in the street?
The show was a ratings disaster. The core audience began writing and calling into TBS, furious that GCW was no longer airing on the station and demanding to know why. Thousands of complaints were received, many of which focused on the loss of Gordon Soley. Ted Turner himself was pissed off by the sinking ratings and decided he was going to fix the ratings problem. First, he made an offer to Bill Watts, the promoter who ran Mid-South Wrestling, to take a Sunday afternoon time slot on TBS. He also entered negotiations with the other former owner of Georgia Championship Wrestling, Ole Anderson, who had created a new company after he was forced out by Vince McMahon called Championship Wrestling from Georgia. And he said that he would have Saturday mornings on TBS with Gordon Soley as the announcer. Vince was not happy about either of these decisions because he thought taking control of Georgia Championship Wrestling would make the WWF the exclusive wrestling company on TBS. Now, not only was he competing with two other wrestling shows, he was the last place show in terms of ratings on the station. He was hemorrhaging money, looking for help, and he turned to Jim Barnett, who directed him to NWA president Jim Crockett Jr., the owner of Jim Crockett Promotions that operated out of Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina.
Was he related to Davy Crockett?
He was not.
Oh, man.
See, at the time, Jim Crockett was trying to counter the WWF's national expansion by unifying the rest of the NWA that had not been driven out of business by Vince into one nationwide company. Cornette had just bought out Championship Wrestling from Georgia and bought the World Championship Wrestling program from Vince McMahon for $1 million and brought the NWA back to TBS. Because of this, Jim Crockett Promotions show Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling became a national promotion and synonymous with the NWA. He also, though, wrote his own downfall because he provided Vince McMahon and Titan Sports with the money needed to put on the first WrestleMania.
The first WrestleMania only cost $1 million?
Probably a little more, but it helped. So the new World Championship Wrestling, which was a combination of Mid-Atlantic and Championship Wrestling from Georgia, became the top-rated show on TBS, and Jim Crockett Jr. was once again elected to become NWA president. In 1986, he held the first Jim Crockett Sr. Memorial Cup, which brought in talents from various NWA territories, and he gained control of key portions of the NWA, including the traditional territories in North and South Carolina, Georgia, and St. Louis. He merged all the territories into one group, promoting the banner of the NWA. He also began to feud more heavily with Vince and the WWF as they continued to try and outmaneuver each other to acquire key television slots. However, the WWF was able to become a big hit in Missouri and the NWA Central states and the Midwest, and across the rest of the country as well, as the feud between Hulk Hogan and Paul Orndorff appeared to a large audience. Following this, Jim Crockett was kicked out of his president seat, and Bob Geigel became NWA president. Jim Crockett Promotions also purchased Heart of America Sports Attractions to begin promoting in the Central States Territory, which owned the rights to promote in Kansas, Missouri, and Iowa. In 1987, he would enter into an agreement to control championship wrestling from Florida and the Universal Wrestling Federation, which, spoiler alert, was not universal. In fact, it only covered 5 states.
That's pretty far from universal.
Yeah.
It is, yeah. The Florida and Mid-South territories were then absorbed into WCW. So Jim Crockett Promotions and WCW owns NWA St. Louis, the Universal Wrestling Federation, Mid-Atlantic, Central States Wrestling, Championship Wrestling from Georgia, and Championship Wrestling from Florida.
I'm so confused.
Basically, the whole South and Midwest is under the control of Jim Crockett Promotions.
Why didn't you just say that?
And the whole Northeast and northern parts are under the control of WWF.
Making all this fucking hard for my tiny little brain to comprehend.
Between the purchasing of these several territories, World Class Championship Wrestling in Texas left the NWA.
Yeah, they left.
And later merged. They left, which made Jim Crockett Promotions the last NWA member with national television, which made Jim Crockett Promotions the NWA, essentially. They're the only brand that mattered. With all the money that was spent to acquire these territories and all the money it cost to tour across the nation, Jim Crockett Promotions was losing a lot of money. And the success of it and the WWF hinged on pay-per-view. They had to sell more pay-per-views. So Jim Crockett Promotions marked the 5th installment of Starrcade as their answer to WrestleMania. The WWE would counter with their first ever Survivor Series on the same day. But they went further. They informed the cable companies that if they carried Starrcade, they would never be allowed to carry future WWE events.
Jesus Christ.
This meant only 5 cable companies aired Starrcade, and after expenses, Crockett Promotions only made $80,000.
Oh.
That's a big yikes.
When they promoted their next pay-per-view, Bunkhouse Stampede, WWE counter-programmed it by airing the Royal Rumble for free on USA Network. And not only did they lose money because they got counter-programmed by a free event, they got low buy rates because they held the events in Chicago and New York, alienating their main fan base in the Carolinas and the Southeast.
Oof. Bad choice.
That's a very far way to travel for one event.
Yes. So in 1984, Jim Crockett decides he's going to change it. He signed Dusty Rhodes and made him the booker for World Championship Wrestling. And he had a reputation for creativity. He created a lot of memorable feuds, gimmick matches like the War Games match. He was responsible for elevating wrestlers such as Sting, Ricky Steamboat, Magnum TA, the Road Warriors.
Sting, like Sting from the Police? Sting?
No, not Sting from the Police. He's just
Then
Sting.
you don't call somebody Sting.
His name is Sting.
No.
By the way, Sting, in fact, who started wrestling at this time, is having his final match tonight as we record.
How old is he?
He's got to be in his
Negative.
50s or 60s.
Good for him. Do I want chicken nuggets?
Sting is 64 years old.
Oh, do I want chicken nuggets?
Yeah, of course you do. Why are we asking why we record?
Because I'm hungry and I want nuggets.
Okay, well, all right. Well, I'm cutting this out now.
Okay, well then wait for a minute.
What do you mean wait? We're recording.
Hold on.
Oh my god.
Can you make nuggets?
I'm losing my mind. It's happened again.
All right, continue.
And it's your episode.
I know.
Yeah.
You lost your mind on your own episode.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. While Rhodes was successful, problems started to emerge. He would get into a political struggle with NWA champion Ric Flair over how to book him.
Ric Flair?
Yeah, Ric Flair was the world champion at the time, and Rhodes and Ric Flair didn't get along that well.
What year are we in again?
1988.
Oh, okay. We're almost to the present.
Yeah. So
no, we're not. We haven't even been born yet, Hannah.
Dusty Rhodes would then be criticized for what was called the Dusty Finish, which would happen constantly under him, where
the Dusty Finish.
The Dusty Finish, where essentially
is that when like a guy comes on you and then like shoves dust over top of you? What the fuck is that?
Essentially, what the Dusty Finish is in wrestling is, what do you mean? Oh God. It's basically when the good guy would appear to win a big match and everyone in the audience would celebrate. But then minutes later, the decision would be reversed due to some kind of technicality, letting the bad guy win.
And this happened a lot.
This happened constantly. Imagine you get invested in these characters in the show and you finally see your hero win and you're so happy and celebrating. And then minutes later, some little nerd comes out and goes, actually, he got disqualified, so the villain wins the match.
Wait. By the way, I looked up Dusty Finish on Urban Dictionary. The first one that comes up is the one I'll read second, but the second one that came up was when a guy finishes an orgasm or when a guy fakes an orgasm so he can get some sleep, which I think is funny. But the Dusty Finish on Urban Dictionary, that's like the widely popularized one, a complete and total bullshit way to end a main event / title match in pro wrestling. The referee is bumped / knocked down, and another official runs out to the referee in the match. During this time, while the first official is down, the good guy beats the bad guy cleanly, usually winning the title on the line if there's one. During the celebration, the first referee wakes up and reverses the second referee's call, either restarting the match where the bad guy would win in a cheap way or rendering it a no contest.
Yep. It's so bad that it's on Urban Dictionary talking about how bad it is.
The example is the crowd was royally pissed off when the match ended in a Dusty Finish.
Yep. He did that a lot. The final idea that he had that was actually good was called Clash of the Champions. To counteract what WWE did with the Bunkhouse Brawl and Royal Rumble, Dusty Rhodes would create Clash of the Champions to air for free on TV on the night of WrestleMania 4, and it gained more viewers than WrestleMania. Rhodes would, however, be fired in November by the promotion because they had a strict no blood policy, and he had Road Warrior Animal take a spike and jam it into his eye, busting it wide open.
Oh, I hate this. I hate that. Put those words back in your mouth. Oh, I hate that.
Like an actual spike into his eye?
Yeah, so Road Warrior Animal, him and his partner Hawk would wear football pads with spikes on them.
I don't want to hear this.
They had Animal take it and stab him with it.
That's fantastic. Is his eye okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
So was it fake?
He got cut open.
Oh, I hate this.
Well, Hannah, this is coming from like Frankie, correct me if I'm wrong, but like wrestlers, like in order to like use blood or whatever, would like put razor blades like in their suit or something and use it whenever they needed to cut themselves, correct?
Yeah, they would. It's called blading. They would take they would break up a razor blade, stick it somewhere, depending on the wrestler. It would be the tights or in their wrist tape, or some wrestlers who were idiots would put it in their mouth.
Ugh.
And then at some point in the match, they'd take it out, rub it against their forehead, toss it, and then they're bleeding.
That one didn't get you as much as the spike in the eye.
Because it's a spike in the eye.
So
You should watch Clockwork Orange.
No, I can't, because the one thing that creeps me out is seeing someone like cut into themselves, like seeing a blade or a needle or something penetrate skin. That's what creeps me out.
So what happened with that is he violated the strict no blood policy. He's fired. Who instituted the no blood policy?
Vince McMahon.
Nope, it was Ted Turner, who had purchased Jim Crockett Promotions.
Why did he say no blood?
Because Ted Turner wanted to promote a family-friendly show.
Absolutely not.
Ted Turner, there's a famous phone call after he buys Jim Crockett Promotions and turns it into World Championship Wrestling.
Hold on, real quick. Wrestling's still wrestling. What if there's an accident and somebody accidentally gets like bloodied?
That's fine, but
what?
Rhodes did it on purpose.
Oh, well,
no intentional blood.
So Ted Turner buys WCW, and he calls Vince McMahon, and he says, "Well, Vince, looks like we're both in the wrestling business together." And Vince takes a beat. That's good for you, Ted. I'm happy for you. But I'm not in the wrestling business. I'm in the entertainment business. And then hangs up the call.
That's really good.
It's really stupid. You're in the wrestling business, Vince. Calm down. No matter how much you want to.
It's wrestling.
You're in the wrestling business. There's gonna be an episode that we watch of Nitro later on down the road where one of the wrestlers who has come from WWE into WCW, he's trying to make fun of WCW, and he's like, "We're all down here in WCW World Championship Wrestling," and all the Southern fans start fucking like throwing garbage at him.
That's really good. I'd throw garbage at him too.
Jim
I
Crockett
would throw
Promotions.
garbage at anybody. If somebody supplied me with the garbage.
Yeah, I know you would. So in 1989, WCW turns around and begins to have a lot of success. Ric Flair is the world champion and the head booker.
Ric Flair?
Yes.
Does he wear like flashy outfits? Because he sounds like he would.
He does.
Yeah, he does.
So Flair brings in Ricky Steamboat and Terry Funk to have pay-per-view matches that are financially and critically successful. He brings in young stars such as Sid Vicious, Sting, Scott Steiner, the Road Warriors, Brian Pillman, Lex Luger. He brings in the Great Muta from Japan.
Sid Vicious? Isn't Sid Vicious also a musician?
Yeah. But it's not the same.
And then you said it with Sting.
Yeah.
I want the record to show I am just picturing Sting, the musician.
Yeah. You can't do that.
So in March of 1990, Flair was fired as head booker.
Why?
Because the WCW talent began to argue that Flair was booking things in his favor.
Yeah. And?
Booking himself to be world champion.
And?
Yeah, who cares? They had high ratings and well-received shows, but the wrestlers didn't like it, and Ted Turner fired him only as head booker. So they then brought in Ole Anderson to be head booker.
Again? This fucker?
This fucker's back, and oh my god, was it a bad decision?
Ugh.
He had stunts that he would break out. A cross-promotional appearance of RoboCop at one of their pay-per-views, and the Chamber of Horrors match, which was a steel cage that had an electric chair in the middle of it.
That's kind of cool.
And the way to win your match was to throw your opponent into the electric chair and electrocute them.
That's really good.
So it is actually an electric chair.
No, it was faked.
Okay.
It was a fake chair. They would just pretend to be
what's really funny about that match, because we're not going to watch it in our timeline, what's really funny about it is that you can see when they throw the guy into the chair, it shakes everything, and the switch before it's supposed to falls down on its own. So the guy who's supposed to throw the switch has to walk over, push it back up, and then put it down again. So Ole didn't book himself, but he booked all of his friends who were old men. And this would have...
I don't like the way you said that.
Old men.
This would drop a house show ticket sales to record lows. At this point,
Karma is a bitch.
It is. At this point, WCW is slowly becoming its own company and separating itself from the NWA. They officially separated in January of 1991 and recognized their own WCW World Heavyweight Champion and WCW World Tag Team Champions instead of the NWA Champions. Now, at this time, through the most of the first half of 1991, WCW and the NWA recognized Ric Flair as their World Heavyweight Champion. But soon, he would leave the company because of recently installed WCW president Jim Herd, the former regional manager of Pizza Hut.
Oh no, not the former regional manager of Pizza Hut.
Now running a national wrestling company.
Oh no.
He and Ric Flair did not get along for various reasons. Ric Flair once stated that Herd knew nothing about wrestling other than the fact that the station he ran aired it as a TV show.
Well, you see, he wasn't a Pizza Hut guy. He was a Papa John's fan.
Oh, I had so many jokes and I was saying them, and then I realized that I muted you guys so that I could take you with me to pee.
Oh my God.
Oh.
So Jim Herd wanted to have Ric Flair drop his entire gimmick and persona and shave his long beach blonde hair.
Why?
To become a Roman gladiator by the name of Spartacus.
Absolutely.
No, put it in the garbage where it belongs.
Creative committee member Kevin Sullivan was quoted at the time as saying, after we change Flair's gimmick, why don't we just go to Yankee Stadium and change Babe Ruth's uniform number?
Yeah, that's it. That's pretty much it.
Jim Herd also tried to make Ric Flair take a pay cut, leave the main event scene, and drop the title to Lex Luger.
Lex Luthor?
Lex Luger.
Lex Luthor.
Jim Herd, doing all of this to Ric Flair, led Ric Flair to leave the company.
To go to the WWE.
Yep. So after failed contract negotiations, Ric Flair was still the world champion. They stripped him of the title, but Flair refused to give them the belt because back then you had to put a deposit on the physical belt to ensure that you wouldn't damage it or try and sell it.
Mm-hmm.
Ric Flair had put down a $25,000 deposit on the physical belt.
And they wouldn't give him his deposit back.
They would not give him the money back. So Ric Flair kept the belt, went to the WWE, showed the belt on their television, and called himself the real world champion.
That's good.
They eventually, WCW would sue WWF to stop Flair from using the belt on TV, claiming a trademark on the physical design of the belt. Ric Flair did not return the WCW belt until Jim Herd had been fired.
And how long did that take?
I don't remember. Oh, Jim Herd was fired. I do have that listed in January of 1992, so a little over a year.
Not as long as I thought.
But wait, we'll get to some of Jim Herd's other fun ideas in a moment.
Fun ideas.
Yeah, we'll say fun.
Okay.
He also led to other people leaving the company. Stan Hansen was so insulted by the Desperados gimmick that they wanted him to have, which was a stable of bumbling cowboys, that he just left the company the day he was asked to be part of the group.
Fair.
Other Jim Herd ideas that he had. The Candyman. Wrestler Brad Armstrong would come out and give candy to kids in the crowd.
I kind of like that one.
That kind of feels creepy.
The Hunchbacks.
No.
That feels offensive.
Because the primary way to beat your opponent in a wrestling match is to pin their shoulders to the mat, a person like Quasimodo couldn't be beaten. So he created a tag team called the Hunchbacks that could never be pinned.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's offensive.
Yeah, no.
the ding-dongs who would come out wearing pink or silver bodysuits and masks to the ring resembling bells and ringing bells the entire way down the ramp.
You know what? I like the ding dongs.
Brad
Are
Armstrong.
we gonna see some of these?
Brad Armstrong. I'll send you pictures.
I would love to.
Brad Armstrong, who was, remember, pegged to be the Candyman, that didn't go through. So now they brought him in to be Arachnaman.
I'm
A
assuming
what?
this has to do with spiders.
They would dress him in a purple and gold Spider-Man suit, and he would shoot silly string out of his hands as he entered the ring.
That
But
feels like copyright infringement.
yeah, it didn't happen because their legal team said, "Hey, we're gonna get a cease and desist letter from Marvel for this. We cannot do it."
You could do it just without the silly string.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you'd just be like, what? He's not in the red and black or red and blue.
Yeah, and purple and yellow were the colors of WCW at the time.
So yeah, you're fine. You're fine with that. You just can't do the silly string.
Well, actually, it also looked just like Spider-Man's suit. Like,
Yeah,
well, okay. That I can't help you with.
So Jim Herd was fired in January of 1992. They brought in someone named Kip Allen Frey to run the company, but he had a very brief tenure. He didn't really do much. He was replaced later in the year by former promoter of Mid-South Wrestling and former professional wrestler, Cowboy Bill Watts.
Was he an actual cowboy?
He was probably at one point in his life an actual cowboy.
Okay.
Bill Watts would make top rope moves illegal
Boo.
during wrestling matches. Yeah. He also resigned, quote unquote, let's put in there, fired, because he made some racist statements and had been accused of anti-Semitism.
Mm-hmm.
The reason he was fired by these statements is that he had an article from before he had been hired from the company where he said a bunch of homophobic and racist statements, with the lead line being essentially that businesses should be allowed to discriminate against people.
I want to discriminate against this guy.
And guess who worked for Ted Turner at the time? Famed African-American baseball player Hank Aaron. Hank Aaron, who is beloved in the city of Atlanta and beloved by all baseball fans and beloved in America, was sent this article by somebody, and he demanded that Ted Turner fire Bill Watts because he would not work. He would not work for a company that had employed this man.
Good.
So Ted Turner was sick of wrestling people running his company. Even though it was a wrestling company, this is what you get with a wrestling person.
Mm-hmm. Look at what's happening with Buckhead McMahon.
Yeah. So he wanted to find someone who wasn't involved in wrestling. Who they came to was Eric Bischoff. Eric Bischoff now had been involved in wrestling in the past. He was a former third string announcer for the AWA when that company was slowly dying. But he didn't have enough of a wrestling connection that they deterred him from being hired. So new WCW president Eric Bischoff, who will be the president of the company as we come into watching Monday Nitro. So during this period, WCW had its own World Heavyweight Champion and recognized the NWA's world title, and Ric Flair left the WWF on good terms and returned to WCW, becoming NWA World Champion once again. The title was later scheduled to be dropped by Flair to Rick Rude, but the NWA Board of Directors, working separately from WCW, objected to the title being changed without their vote, and so the WCW left the NWA for good in September of 1993. Now, they still legally owned the actual belt for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, but they couldn't use the NWA name. So they named it the WCW International World Heavyweight Championship. And so they had the WCW International World Heavyweight Championship and the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. So now that Eric Bischoff is executive vice president of WCW and running the company, he impressed Ted Turner and the top brass of the company by being non-confrontational and having a great business savvy. He made a lot of changes. He stopped doing house shows, which are the shows that the companies do that don't air on TV.
Mm.
And they usually go to smaller towns like that. And he stopped taping in different locations. So WCW was brought back to record in a studio location. And what studio did they use? Well, they went to the Disney MGM studios in Orlando, Florida. What was that, Amanda?
Yeah, they did.
They recorded in Disney.
Yeah, the MGM.
The problem, though, is they would tape their programming months in advance. So wrestlers were forced to appear on camera with title belts that they didn't actually win because their pay-per-views were still live. They would appear with the title belts and they would win like several months down the line. And the fans weren't really wrestling fans. They were tourists who were told to cheer or boo with cue cards.
Wow.
I know about this.
You do know about this?
Because it happened at Hollywood Studios, formerly MGM. Yeah, I know about this. They would literally have park guests come in.
Mm-hmm. They would have the park guests come in and be the fans in attendance.
Mm-hmm.
Did the tourists have to pay for the tickets, or were they just like, hey, you want to see a live taping of a show?
Yeah, that was it.
That was it.
Yeah.
Just some poor intern on the boardwalk.
Yeah, they paid for their entry to like Disney MGM, like the Hollywood Studios park.
Okay, so they paid to get into the park, and then some random dude's like, hey, you want to watch something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of. And if they wanted to, I can't remember if it was taped at night. If it was, they were like allowed to stay type thing.
They were taped during the day.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought then. Yeah, so it was kind of like do you guys remember, I don't know if you guys ever went to Disney, but they had like the American Idol experience.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's kind of like that.
They brought back Ric Flair. They're saving money by not doing house shows. They're filming in a studio at Disney MGM because it's cheaper. This isn't really saving the company that much money. In fact, in 1993, WCW lost $23 million.
That's a lot.
So how are they going to come back and compete?
The Nitro thing.
Not yet. In 1994, Eric Bischoff has the idea to recruit high-profile former WWE stars like Hulk Hogan and the Macho Man Randy Savage. They were such high-profile stars that they were able to demand concessions such as multi-year, multi-million-dollar contracts and creative control over their characters. This would later become a problem for WCW, which we'll see in our timeline, as other wrestlers were able to make similar demands and contract values would soar and wrestlers would refuse to lose because they had creative control of their characters.
I'm sure Hulk Hogan was in there like, I have to win every match.
Oh, you're gonna fucking hate Hulk Hogan.
I already do, but okay.
You're gonna hate him even more. So also, you want to hear some of the particulars of Hulk Hogan's contract?
No.
I'm scared, but hit me.
Hulk Hogan had a fee of $700,000 per pay-per-view appearance.
That's a little steep.
Plus, he would get 25% of the gross revenue from the pay-per-view.
I feel like he's committing tax fraud or something.
He's busy making a sex tape.
No, yeah, that's later on.
Oh, I thought we were at. When was the sex tape made?
Like the 2000s?
Oh, all right. Well.
So, in mid-1995, WCW at this point is still not... It's starting to get more competitive. They did a match with Ric Flair, who had been the face of WCW, and Hulk Hogan for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship, and they drew a high buy rate for the pay-per-view that they aired the match between the two. But they still weren't as competitive as they wanted. So in a mid-1995 meeting, Ted Turner stops the meeting with Eric as Eric's about to present the growth of the company and what he thinks the company should be doing. And he flat out asks him, how can WCW be competitive with WWF? What do you need? And Eric responds, not expecting Ted Turner to actually do this. Eric responds, "We need a prime time weekday show going up against Monday Night Raw." And Ted Turner looks over to the TNT president, executive vice president, who's in the meeting with him, and says, "Give Eric an hour every Monday night."
Okay.
And so on September 4th, 1995, the new weekly show airing live from the Mall of America, WCW Monday Nitro, was born.
Was it always aired from the Mall of America?
No, just that first episode. But when we watched the first episode, you know what else is in the Mall of America?
A roller coaster.
Hulk Hogan's pasta restaurant, Pasta Mania.
He had a pasta restaurant?
He had a pasta restaurant.
Was it good pasta?
God, no. It's fucking one, it's Hulk Hogan.
I bet you it tasted like racism.
Yeah. Do you want to see if this is the menu, by the way? You ready?
Was it
I'm
Kraft
ready.
macaroni and cheese?
They have. You want to know where it was? It was located next to in the South Food Court next to Daddy's Deli.
Continue.
They had daily main event specials. It was the Hulkster's favorite international pastas from around the world.
Was it spaghetti with ketchup?
With a special menu for the little pasta maniacs.
Ah, that's where the spaghetti with ketchup is.
So this is what you could get. This is the mix and match pastas. They had angel hair, shells, nuggets. I don't know what that is. Fettuccine and penne.
I want to order nuggets just to know what the nuggets are.
I was really kind of expecting for Hulk Hogan for him to have like a food restaurant that was called Hogan's Heroes.
That's a
like
TV
gyros.
show.
Yeah, no, but
I know what you're doing.
Hoagie Heroes.
So the sauces you could get for the mix and match were marinara, Alfredo, pesto, white clam, and garlic and oil. Here are the international pastas. You ready?
I don't want to.
Swedish meatballs.
It's not a pasta.
Pasta Mexicana.
What the fuck is that?
It doesn't have a description, Hannah. Turkey tetrazzini.
From where?
And beef stroganoff.
I'm gonna lose my mind.
They had main event specials of chicken marinara and fettuccine primavera and Hulk's power pasta, which was penne pasta, chicken, veggies, and your choice of sauce.
Okay, that one sounds fine.
And then what did they have for the little Hulkamaniacs? Or the little pasta maniacs, the kids menu? Cheeseburger pasta.
All right, that sounds delicious.
That's not the worst thing I've ever heard, so continue.
Hulkaroni and cheese.
There it is.
Yeah.
Is it green?
It doesn't. No, it's Hulk Hogan.
I just had to ask because, he could have had a cease and desist.
And, are you ready?
No.
Hulkios.
I'm sorry. What?
which were SpaghettiOs.
With an H.
With Hulk Hogan shaped pasta.
Oh.
What was it? Shaped like a blob?
They're shaped like Hulk Hogan's face and a man flexing.
So just a blob.
Yeah.
I'm done.
So that's Pasta Mania.
Thank you for that little rabbit hole. I could have lived my whole life without knowing this information, but
and it's fat free. It has fat free and low fat specials daily. There's free delivery anywhere in the mall.
Please tell me that it closed.
Oh yeah, it's fucking closed real quick.
Do they do promo there during the show? Their first
they do.
Show?
They do.
Okay.
They
Good.
do. We're gonna get to see Pasta Mania. You ready for this? Pasta Mania lasted from 1995 until 1995. It closed within the year.
Woo! How many months exactly? I need to know.
I don't have that information. All it says is it closed down less than a year later.
This is my rabbit hole.
Everyone else online is also confused as to what nuggets are in terms of a pasta.
I just imagine it's a chicken nugget.
Did anybody go?
Pasta.
Or you know what it could be? It could be like those like those pizza nugget things that you would get at lunch where like It was literally like chicken nuggets on like a bed of pasta, but then they just put like pasta sauce on it and some cheese, and it was supposed to be like a weird chicken parmesan thing.
Wait, fried mac and cheese bites, but it's just spaghetti instead of mac and cheese.
There's a promo we're gonna watch because it's on the first episode of Nitro, but he has a main event match that night, and he says that Pasta Mania is running through his brain, and he's gonna give his opponent a dose of his Hulkaroos off the menu.
How nice of him.
What is Hulk Hogan up to right now? Is he dead?
No, he's fucking
He's
just living in Florida, I think.
he's busy being a racist.
Yeah.
It's very hard work. This is a PSA. Don't be racist.
Don't be a racist.
This has been
Yeah.
a PSA with nothing
That's
to see here.
that's Postomania. We're gonna learn all about Postomania.
I don't want to. I feel like I know too much.
And the hosts of WCW Monday Nitro for a while are going to be Eric Bischoff himself, Bobby Heenan, a former manager and commentator from WWE, and ex NFL star Steve Mongo McMichael. I like Mongo. I think you guys might like Mongo. I think you'll like Mongo because you know who Mongo brings with him every week while he's a commentator on Monday Nitro.
Jeff the Mongoose.
He does not bring Jeff the Mongoose. He brings his Chihuahua Pepe.
Oh,
And
I can't wait.
Not only does he bring his Chihuahua Pepe, he dresses Pepe up in little outfits every week.
I love him. I love him.
He dresses Pepe up like a cowboy. He dresses Pepe up like Santa Claus. He dresses Pepe up like a sailor. He dresses Pepe up like Macho Man Randy Savage.
I love this.
Oh, I can't wait.
So, I will watch this specifically for Pepe.
So we're gonna have a Pepe minute every episode.
He dresses Pepe up in a party hat for a birthday party.
Oh. That's really good too.
He dresses his cute little dog Pepe up and he holds him the entire show.
As he should.
He dresses Pepe up, I think, I'm looking at one, like Raggedy Ann. He dresses Pepe up like a gay vampire. He dresses Pepe up in a little tuxedo.
Oh.
So yeah, we're going to get to see everyone's favorite wrestling commentator, Pepe the Chihuahua.
The only commentator I care about.
Who has his own Twitter account called Pepe McMichael.
Beautiful.
Which is literally just GIFs of him in his different outfits.
Whoever runs that Twitter account,
they haven't tweeted in 3 years. So sad.
Well, I'm gonna find the owner, give them $5 for the login info, and I'm gonna restart it.
Yeah, so that'll be a segment. Hannah's Pepe Watch. Hannah can give us a critique.
Guess what?
Yeah, what?
I'm eating chicken nuggets.
Okay. So with that all being said, we're done with our little history of WCW, and we're ready to start our little journey of the rise and fall of WCW. You guys are going to see some of the best wrestling in the world and some absolute dog shit.
And a cute dog.
You're going to see, we're going to have a lot of fun, I think. But next week, we're also going to have a lot of fun. It's a Scooby-Doo episode again.
Speaking of cute dogs.
It's me and Hannah reviewing.
Oh, thank God.
2 episodes from Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo.
Folks, we've made it to Scrappy-Doo.
Hannah will be reviewing the episode The Blue Scarab. And I will be reviewing the episode The Ransom of Scooby Chief. An episode I am terrified to watch.
I think I vaguely remember watching this episode, and I think it's in New York City.
So not having to do with Native Americans?
I think?
Because the title
is scary.
The title isn't inspiring any confidence in me.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's set in New York City.
Okay.
Or a city, because spoiler, it's with Scrappy's little friends.
I'm looking it up, the ransom of Scooby Chief right now. I don't see any Native Americans in this imagery, so I'm a
Okay.
little more confident. We're going to watch that. Next week, we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about the Blue Scarab and the history of Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo. So with all that being said, any last comments about WCW or wrestling or Scooby-Doo?
I am the #1 Pepe stan.
We have the #1 Pepe stan, Hannah.
Yes.
All right. Well then, let's take care of some business and end the episode. Thank you all for listening. We really do appreciate it. If you would like, please subscribe or follow us wherever you listen, whether that is Spotify or YouTube right now, or if we're up on other platforms, let us and you will listen to us there. Please follow and subscribe. Leave us a review. It's very good for the algorithm, especially on YouTube. Remember to like our videos up on YouTube. That also helps with the algorithm over there. If you would like to send us an email where you can give us any comments, any suggestions for ideas, any thoughts you had about any of our episodes, or any questions you would like to ask any of the three of us or all three of us, you can send us an email to
Nothing to see here podcast@gmail.com. As always, here is spelled HEAR.
if you would like to see some fun artwork, the artwork that was drawn by Amanda. If you'd like to see some funny, silly little memes done by Hannah, you can see all of that. Or, sorry, if you'd like to take a trivia quiz about our episodes every Friday afternoon, you can do that over on our Instagram page, which is
Nothing to see here podcast.
remember to
Amanda.
I always forget this last bit of business. I remember to let your friends know about the show. Suggest it to them. Let them know to listen. If they like Scooby Doo, if they like Disney, if they like spooky shit, if they like Barbie, perhaps, maybe. If
Maybe
they
one day.
Wrestling.
if they like wrestling, tell them to give us a listen. If they like freaks of history, if they like spooky shit, tell them to give it a listen. We have some fun here. I enjoy recording every week with these two.
My highlight of the week.
So please suggest us to your friends and help us out with that. I think that is all of the business to be taken care of. So
I have one order of business.
oh, Amanda has or Hannah has an order of business.
Excuse.
Amanda finally got to play trivia.
I did, yeah.
Did you have fun? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I only got one wrong, I think.
That's pretty good. I think I got one wrong too.
I did not check. I just knew Amanda got to play trivia for the first time because she didn't believe it was there.
I believed it was there. I just didn't know when it was being done. And to be honest, Friday afternoons, I'm normally running a group. So,
yeah. So without further ado, let's wrap it up then. Goodbye. We'll see you next week when we talk about Scooby and Scrappy Doo, everyone's favorite character from Scooby Doo, Scrappy. Goodbye.
It's
what's
Hannah.
your name?
Oh, it's Frankie. Bye.
It's Hannah. Yeah. Bye.
Jeez, guys, we're messing up. It's a shit show. See ya.